Gentlemen, karibuni sana. And just like we have done with their other panelists, it's good to actually just know who you are and why you are invested in this conversation, financial literacy. I'll start off with you, Timothy.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Thank you so much. There's a lot of light here, so if you see me struggling, don't worry. My name is Timothy Macharia. I head investments, wealth management at KCB Investment Bank. I am your age mate, a lot of you. I think here, majority are sub 35. So I'm part of the team, so I'm learning as we learn. The reason actually I am here and I am very passionate about this discussion is this. I'm very intrigued most of the times by the cumulative nature of knowledge in science. And what I mean by that is, if you look back 2 centuries ago, nothing moved faster than the speed of horse, right? And what we've seen is that we can see the accumulation of knowledge. And today, it just takes possibly 15 hours for Candy to be here. She was away, right? And we appreciate that kind of innovation. Even 50 years ago, you know, a disease as simple as a flu used to kill people. Mortality rate used to be high, but today is not there. But what disappoints me is the way financial knowledge has never grown. Financial understanding is such nonsense to everyone, such that today Gladys and Dory are talking about how not Dory, Candy are talking about how they lost money in Ponzi scheme. I can be sure that in another 100 years, if nothing's done, people will be losing money on Ponzi schemes. So accumulation of financial understanding has never moved. And that is the stopper we have to put, so that our children are never having discussions in such a forum.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's a good place to start. Robert, why does this matter to you?
Okay, this matters to me because I learned something several years ago, that wealth is cumulative. You cannot see that upfront, but if I tell you, for example, the Kenyan banking sector, in the year 2006, around there, the total assets, you'd hear that they're around 600 billion, around there 400 billion. But as we speak now, they are over 7 trillion. So if you are not connected to it, life will be the same for you throughout. But when you connect, you'll always hear circles are at 100 billion, a few years they're at 1 trillion. So it means that what has been shared by Pius, that if you start building a portfolio and you are consistent, it will always grow. So the advantage that you have on your side is time. So time favors those who are consistent. And we have to make a connection and now create a journey. So that's basically what I've been doing. So I managed to do that for myself for like 14 years. So I would say it allowed me to move from corporate to a startup, some sort of semi-retired. So the portfolio that Piers was talking about, it has no emotions. It just gives you money and sustains your life.
I love that. Feelings, Jamini. We put them on the side. So we're talking about how, or the importance of having a multiple stream of incomes. And we have said 2 is 1, 1 is none. COVID made it absolutely clear that we need to do more than just rely on that one source of income. To start off, and I think at this point I will allow Timothy to handle the 35 years old and below. And of course, 35 and above will be handled by Robert. So starting with the 35 and below. Where do they start? Because the feeling is perhaps they don't have enough experience to have the multiple streams of income. But what does that look like for a 35-year-old and below?
Thank you, Gladys. My response is this, and I'll start by saying, is first the way we look at money. And when we talk about money, for 35 and below, I like to look at it from what I call economic capital perspective. Economic capital perspective has two folds. Fold number 1 is financial capital, the money that we are saying that we don't have because we are young. But fold number 2 is something called human capital. Human capital, the ability to generate money. And so those two are very tied. And because sometimes the human capital is not seen, we tend to neglect it. and everyone is talking about how do I save. Now, when you're young, you have more of human capital than financial capital. Because human capital is a function of time. If Paul was here, says that he's retired, his human capital is very little right now. But the lady who was 12 years old there, the human capital is enormous. Now, human capital are like resources in a country. You need to invest to dig them up. The reason why Africa is poor, notwithstanding they have resources, because we can't dig the resources. Yeah? So you need to invest on your human capital, your ability to earn. Because here we are talking about financial capital and building portfolios. You can't build portfolio from nowhere. Money, you have to have money, is it? So concentrating on human capital, propping up your human capital, learning new skills, being out there, that is number one. And so that as time goes, as you shrink your human capital, because it's a function of time, by the time I'm 40, I'm 45, I have now substituted financial capital so that I'm talking about my economic capital has grown. Because economic capital is you add human capital plus financial capital. So what is my economic capital? What is my economic value?
Okay, so at this point, when you talk about human capital, you've touched on, working on your skill sets. Is there another or a few others that perhaps we can look into when you talk about human capital?
Yeah, so let me say this, and I'm happy that Dory here has possibly worked in finance and possibly dealt with people from possibly a HR perspective and advisory. This is the thing. The world today has changed dramatically, and my world, possibly, my world, the current I am, and the 12-year-old there are very different. What you need to do is that you have to be a constant life learner. You have to be learning skills, otherwise, there are people here who, anyone in campus here? Someone in campus at the university? Thank you. There's someone in the university. Mm-hmm. And I can tell you, there's a possibility that the time you graduate, all the knowledge you've studied is obsolete. There is that possibility, yeah? Because our academic life has not caught up with the kind of knowledge that is needed in the actual job situation. And actually, institutions are investing so much to retrain you. You can retrain yourself. The beauty is education has been democratized, so you cannot blame anyone. Number two, just to say that, especially for us who are now transiting, I'm 32 years old, so I'm 3 years old to possibly not being a youth, right?
And the government reminds you with a text message.
And I'm very worried out of that because,
yes.
I stop enjoying the benefit. But as I'm transiting, there's something also called sunk cost. Some people are not willing to adjust their life because you have invested so much on that skill. You're not ready to have a conversation that, yes, nilienda university, nimesomea hii course, but manze hii course, kuna vile. You don't want to accept that, but that is a situation that, or a conversation that you have to have with yourself. That the course is obsolete. AI can do whatever I'm doing today. So what do I do next? Yeah, it brings a conversation we call the learnway. You remember Kasim said here about the learnway? The human capital learnway, right? Mm-hmm. It can be 2 years, it can be 3 years, but today, every person's human capital is at risk, and you need to consistently plop it up.
So self-development is very key at this age
right.
group. Okay. All right. So for those that are 35 plus, the government has made it clear you cannot access certain government, advantages. Robert, what do we look into when it comes to multiple streams of income?
Yes. So I would say I would still insist on the portfolio. So what I learned back in 2010, I have a financial advisor as well. So that's something that I took seriously. People think that if you're in the financial services industry, then you know everything. So
wanasema waganga hawajigangi. You've got to get somebody to also keep you accountable.
Correct, just for accountability. So what I would say is that you need to have someone to hold you accountable. They can be a friend, of course not a blabbermouth, but they should be someone who has skills that can help you. So that you ride the waves, because there are a lot of things happening along the way. So the idea of a portfolio, I call it wealth basket. So a wealth basket is basically resources that can do a lot of stuff on your behalf. Because you'll realize that in life's journey, if you ask a typical household, think of the things that you worry about when it comes to money, and now start creating problems to solve them. So for me, by that time, I was guided on how to work on things like school fees. So I'd already been taught about it even before I had kids. So you always have to think ahead and see that. A financial plan will help you to know that. For example, we plan to go for holiday in December. Start thinking about it now. If you start thinking about it too late, then your idea about money will always be worrying. So these are the people who maybe in the last 10 years, they were in a position to have saved, let's say, 50,000 per month. They didn't save, but now they are blaming economy and everyone. So what I would say at that age, be keen on a portfolio of wealth and look at ways also to start consolidating. Something that happens to most of us, including it happened to me, it is a stage in life where we just buy plots left, right, and center, and we are unstoppable. Yeah. So once you get back to your senses, you can think of consolidating.
Nasikia watu wa broti maguta maguta. Yes, tuko wengi.
Yes, yes. So you might find you have 6, they are all over. Have the courage to even sell 3 of them and consolidate, because that money that you have now in cash and it is generating passive income that Paz was talking about, it is what will now create that portfolio. I can say that currently on an annual basis, I have money that can work for me for like 4 months. You get it? Then you increase it to 6 months because it is a journey. And wealth baskets in Kenya, you typically will need 2 big ones. So number 1 is home ownership, and number 2 is financial freedom / retirement. And there are numbers, they're not related to age. You get it? So if you want to build a house or own a home, you need to know how much would you need. So that's very, very important. Because now what happens is that when you don't have that number in mind, when you are in age 35 and above, there's something called home ownership bug. So you have kids, you have a family, and you'll just say, there's no way my friend Dolly is coming to visit me and I don't have a house. Then you run to the bank. And most of the times, people make emotional and not financial decisions. So remember, personally, I'm from IT or tech background, and I got into finance. So finance is very logical, by the way. It's very logical. And the disadvantage is that as human beings, we are driven mostly by emotions and feelings. So you have to know that you have to make logical decisions. So when you are budgeting, make logical decisions. If you need 100,000 as a family to go for holiday, it is a number, right? So it doesn't depend on how much you love your family, you know. You either have the money or not. So if you put the love ahead of the reality, that's when you go to take a loan now to show love. You get it? So you're creating more problems. But you can see clearly when you plan, you'll get things better. So things like school fees, let's take a practical example. I want this to be as practical as possible. Let's say you have a child in class 6. Sorry to use the old system. There used to be class 6, right? So you've seen already this child is very bright. You know, they might be from a very humble background, but by class 6, they're number 1, they're doing things well. And you can already estimate that they're going to be getting a calling letter from Starehe or Alliance. So let's say now when they're in class 6, the first month, January, you start putting 20,000 Kenya shillings per month. At the end of the year, how much will you have? 240. Plus interest above that. So by the time they complete school, you might even have over 750,000. It is much easier to do it that way than when now the calling letter is here. Then you find a family with pieces of land worth 20 M. They're saying that they're too poor to afford school fees of 200,000 because all the money is stuck in the hard assets. So when you reach age 35 and above, look at ways to optimize your portfolio and try to think ahead of the needs that you have. You know, if you want to go for holiday, if you start 12 months ahead, you are a very smart person who has succeeded in business or career. Believe me, you'll get ideas on how to start putting some money aside. So that's very, very important. And the wealth baskets, just to finalize, look at them as things that you can grow progressively. It is a journey, right? You can be at 500,000 over time, 2 million, 10 million, and then you look at, if you want 200,000 Kenya shillings per month, see yourself on a journey to 20 million. What I see these days, someone will come and tell me as the financial planner that they see themselves retiring with a passive income of 300,000 Kenya shillings per month. But if you tell them that for that one you'll need 30 million, their mind cannot even process 30 million. But see now, when you start at age 35, maybe you'll be there by age 50. So you take advantage of time and then know your numbers and work towards them. And when you own that journey, then you'll be able to go to KCB, go to different financial services companies and walk the journey with them.
Okay, and I love that you've talked about that, and now you can see how these intertwine, because this is the one person who's progressively growing, not only age-wise, but also on their financial journey. So, Timothy, just listening to him, those are bigger goals, but it starts when you're 35 and below. So you have a regular income, all right? You have perhaps your salaried, maybe you're employed, or you have a business that's bringing in money. So how now do we leverage to get a passive income? Because we're saying we want more than just one stream of income. 35 and below. How do you set yourself up to be that retiree or successful older person who put their money right at that age?
Thank you. So two things. When you're 35 and below, there's two things that is with you. One, you have great potential, but then the question is that, and I like differentiating money, and money is in two ways. Money, there is making money, There's making money and there is keeping money, yeah? You have to make money for you to keep it, is it? Mm-hmm. So when you're young, making money is a function of putting yourself out there, taking risks, and being lucky. I know you're laughing, but you cannot discount luck. The reason why Gladys is here and is a presenter, if you just removed one variable from her life, she cannot be here. One variable. So it's a function, but keeping money is the exact opposite. You have to be cautious and you have to manage risks. If you have to keep money, but making money you have to risk. Now, when it's coming to now you making money, because it's multiple streams of income. Right now you're working. And one way to make money is to make passive income, and you need to save. And we have had a good session here of how you can start with a basic money market fund. Mm-hmm. But I'd like to put on you why it is very extremely important for you to do that. You see, for you to be able to take risks and make more money, the two sides of risks is their willingness, that I'm willing to take risks, but also affording the risk. It's like eating. For you to eat, you have appetite and food. Yes? Yes. For you to say that you're eating, there has to be appetite and there has to be food. Having appetite with no food is a wasted appetite.
Yes.
I don't know when I'm communicating, right? So when it comes then to risking, you might be willing to risk, but you can't afford it because the ability to risk. So the reason why then you're even saving and putting this money is because of this. Candy talked about when she was young, the way she used, for her to be here, she can tell you, she had been to so many companies. You have to shift jobs for you to be added some income. Now, shifting jobs is risky because the new employer will put you on a probation. We need to test you. You have come here, shown on the interview, how do I know whether you climbed or someone tutored you on how to perform here, right? Yeah. I need to see you work. I'm not hiring for interview, I'm hiring for someone who can do the job. I put you on a probation for 6 months. We can decide, I think you're not the kind of person we are looking for, and peace, look for another employer. Now, for you then to be able to take a risk that I am going to another employer, you have to have prepared yourself enough, because it's a risk, that in case this does not work out, I'll have a runway to look for another employer.
Okay.
The reason why most of us are stuck, or most of you are stuck in some jobs, is because you cannot take the risks. You cannot take the risk because you can't afford it. Yes, you are willing. You want to progress. But you're not very sure why you can prove yourself. And number two, if you don't prove yourself, so what? Yeah?
The fear of the unknown.
Exactly. You see here, for people, even when we came here, the roads, because of the rains, have potholes a bit, right? But cars are still moving. Because Toyota knows that I can't control, or whatever car you're driving, they know they cannot control the condition of the road. But I can build a car that has some shock absorbers, notwithstanding the pothole, or even the planes. Yeah? The manufacturer, Airbus or Boeing, knows that there'll be turbulence. I cannot control when it comes, neither can I predict it. But I can build a car that is resilient to those turbulence. Now, having that buffer, that income that is set aside, it is for shock absorbing. You cannot project how it will be, right? COVID has taught us the best lesson, right?
Yes.
That jobs can evaporate, yeah? We can all stay at home and still life continues. We can, there can be curfews and you work at night. So the reason why you need as a young person to put that buffer is for you to afford the risks to make more money. Because making money you have to take. To take risks, you have to be there.
Okay, so how do we go beyond now the savings and now start building on the passive income, because we want to own a home later on when we are beyond a certain age?
Good. I'll say what Paya said here. You see, when it comes to our goals to wealth, they have a different path. A lot of people will come to me and ask, where do I invest? Yeah, that is asking like, what is the best road? The best road is a function of the destination, is it? So you start with the money market fund and decide that I need to push this to a certain extent. Now, money market fund is an entry product. But there are other financial products that you can tap in. You can do treasury bills. Yeah? You know treasury bills? You know what are treasury bills, yeah? Now you scale up. Minimum in our treasury bill is 100,000. So if you have 10,000, you cannot invest in treasury bill, but you can pack money in the money market fund until it gets to 100,000, and then you migrate. Are we together?
Yes.
The same thing, you can save and do a treasury bond, which will give you 18% net of tax. Yeah? And then you can pack it there. The thing is, then you have to define some goals. And I usually say this. In life, there are two types of goals. There's what we call labeled goals. Like, I want to buy a car. That is a labeled goal. Or my wife is pregnant, and she's going to give birth. Yeah? And all I want to pay school fees. That is a labeled goal. But there are unlabeled goals that I know that I don't want to be where I am in another 10 years. Because again, you see, I usually say this, work with a mindset that where you are, this is the best situations they can be. Where you are is the best conditions can be. So prepare that they can be worse. This is the bottom. This is the best it can be. So level it that way. And then decide that since I am projecting that things might not be so good up there, I need to have portfolios. Now, you have those portfolios and say that I have these portfolios, I have saved for 6 months emergency. Then number two, I have then to decide to build a portfolio. So I am now diversifying. I have a money market fund, 300,000. I have a treasury bill, possibly $1 million shillings. I have a bond which is a bit long term, 5 million. Yeah? All if you're not there is that you put a timeline. That is where I need to be. And then you start consistently working on those. When it comes to the issue also of taking risk, there are 4 things that you need to think about risks. And because a lot of us here are sandwich generation, let me say this. Risk has 4 facets. Number 1, you have 4 options. You can avoid risk. You can avoid?
Risk.
It's an option, is it? If it's avoidable. If it is avoidable. Number 2, you can retain risk. You can retain, is it? It's risky, I need to retain it. Number 4, you can transfer risk. Number 3, you can transfer risk. Okay? You can transfer risk. You can say, I need to transfer these risks, especially risks that cannot be avoided. You can transfer this. I'll give you a very good example. Health is a risk. Is it? For you who is in a business, you have saved that 1 million in a money market fund. Because the reason you have saved 1 million in a money market fund is not to pay a hospital bill, is it? The reason you have saved that 1 million is to grow your wealth. So you need to protect it. So you don't want tomorrow that your fork is in the hospital and now you have to fork the 1 million. So you need to say that I need a health insurance. That for my folks, for me to protect this 1 million, I need to get them a health insurance, especially inpatient. Outpatient, possibly you can afford. You can go to a mission hospital, pays 2,000. But you need to protect the inpatient. Here, 3 days of inpatient is 2 million shillings. So how do you make sure that you're not saving for hospital? That is a risk you cannot retain. Neither can you avoid. Right? The best you can do is transfer. Okay? So you need to then say that I'll put a portfolio. And it's very simple. This portfolio, you can even say that this this insurance that I'm paying, because I don't want to fork money out of my pocket and the hard work, I'll have this 1 million. 18% of 1 million is how much?
180.
Hey, 18% of 1 million is how much? 180,000. And say, because my folks might be sick and I don't want to risk my 1 million to take them to hospital, I'll buy an insurance of 100,000, which will give equivalent possibly of 1.5 million of inpatient cover, yeah? And I know that I have protected the downside.
Okay, so protecting your wealth at that point. Okay, so let's address, Robert, briefly for those that are 35 and above. You're not salaried, so you don't have that income coming in, but you have a business, so it's giving you something, or gig economy, we talked about it. So how do these now align themselves to ensure that when things go south, they still have something else that is cushioning them?
Yeah, so actually, for most entrepreneurs, and I believe you have quite a number of people in business, they tend to have irregular income. So we are insisting on you having a portfolio of wealth outside your business. And in wealth, whether you are employed or unemployed, you need to learn about a concept known as staying power. So staying power works this way. Let's say on a monthly basis, you need 50,000 Kenya shillings for expenses, whether in business or for personal use. So if you have 150,000 somewhere, it means you have 3 months worth of staying power. So that's how money works. So even for entrepreneurs, have a portfolio outside your business. So when COVID came, you saw those with zero staying powers. I won't name names, but there are some very famous hotels or restaurants that didn't make it, right? Yeah, but some survived the downtime because they had staying power. So always work to increase the staying power. Because what happens in personal finance, the situations are not shared. Personal finance is very personal. So if your income is irregular, then you need a different strategy. So it means you need to be very aggressive in terms of planning for your expenses. If you have salaries to pay every month, you need to know how much they are and try to always be ahead in terms of having money somewhere else. So I'll give you an example. Like in some spaces that we've seen, if you have a dental clinic, the medics, some of them tend to work until their 70s or 75 because they're in a cash flow business. Money is always coming daily, but sometimes they forget to build passive income. But if you have staying power, it simply means that there's a time that your income can replace the revenues that you're expecting. So it's very, very important. So I always say things like school fees and such like stuff, have an annual budget, right? So you know that school fees is coming in May, August, stuff like that. So you need to start thinking about that well in advance. Because the salaried people, they're lucky. Money will come maybe tomorrow and school fees is due on Wednesday, right? They'll pay. But for entrepreneur, floods came from nowhere. We know our situations. So you cannot say that you're not like so-and-so who is employed. Work with your situation. And when you work with your situation, you'll get ideas and try to be ahead, okay? Things like salaries, always try to have a portfolio of investments. The money market that we are talking about, you can get that money in 2 to 4 working days. So I can tell you that in some spaces like mine, getting good talent is hard. So if you start those stories of, salary will delay, what will happen? You'll remain there alone and you'll start from zero. So to ensure that, irrespective of the cash flow challenges, you have a way of still running the business, build staying power. Actually, the difference between a big business and a small business, in most cases, the big businesses, they have staying power. So if you look at KCB, for example, in terms of shareholders' funds or retained earnings, they have over 200 billion. You'll never hear them saying it anywhere, but that is why they are KCB. You get it? So they can have a tough 1 year, but they can still keep going. So I would really recommend that for entrepreneurs have such plans. He talked of medical insurance, health insurance. Ensure that you have that for inpatient. So what happens, like for example, for Kenya, on a good day, you might never see the need of having Kenya Navy, Kenya Army, or the Air Force. But believe you me, the enemy can come at any given point in time, even 50 years from now, and you'll wish you had the armed forces. That's the reason why you need to think about insurance and protecting the downside. Remember, the wealth basket that you're building is actually something that you can extend to your lineage and is the output of a business. So output of a business is not vibes. It's not saying you are an entrepreneur. Over time, you better show us where is your 500,000, where is your 1M. You are an entrepreneur, my friend. Show us. You might not have it now because you are still growing, but over time, have an ambition. You know, wealth is measured in millions and billions. So have a strategy towards your 1M, put somewhere else, grow it to 3M. And you see, the more you have that, the higher the output in terms of quality. You are thinking, you see, you'll be the one innovating now. As other people are worrying about today, you are thinking 5 months ahead. And you're able now to create more value for your customers. So I would say that is very, very important to work with your situation and always plan ahead. So have things like an emergency fund, which caters for those periods where the revenues are low or you have money issues, and also have a sinking fund. So a sinking fund, traditionally, having been in the banking sector, we have some information like very few people budget or plan for school fees. Very few people plan for holiday, but there are known expenses that are coming ahead. So what you can do, take the school fees, multiply by 3 if you are working in 3 terms, then divide it by 12 and start setting it aside on a monthly basis. If it is too much, when you look at your budget, just know that you are spending too much on school fees, because that money is supposed to come from your monthly income if you are salaried.
Okay.
So it means that when the term is due, you have the money with you. So I would really insist on financial planning and thinking ahead so that you can start looking for ways to cover that.
And I think the two gentlemen both touched on the importance of not only growing your wealth, but also protecting it. And you start thinking about it when you're younger so that you're also not working towards, or rather, they say, there are very many memes. Unachota maji kama na kikapu ambacho kiko na shimo. So really, you're working towards nothing if you're not protecting it. Do we have any questions before we actually say goodbye to our gentlemen? Any questions in the crowd? Any clarifications? Do we have somebody? Yes, we do. Do we have the roving mics? Somebody? Anyone? Okay, just say it out loud and perhaps I can articulate it for you. Can I amplify it for you? Okay, just stand up. Yes? You didn't get to? The fourth risk for the young. Yes.
The fourth risk is reduce. Reduce risk. Yeah? Reducing risk. You know, risk is a probability. It's a function of odds. Meaning that if I can get if there's a lot of accident on Thika Road, me not going to Thika Road is our way of reducing risks. It's reducing, yeah?
Yes.
Because I have to be there for the risk to happen. So you say, avoid, yeah? The second one is retain. The other one is transfer. And the fourth one is reduce. Yeah. So you have those 4 options. And the reason you have those 4 options is that you always have to weigh, is this risk I can retain? Is this risk avoidable? There are things you can't avoid, is it? Because you are a human being. Can you avoid being ill?
No.
Although you can reduce being ill if you are working out. Is it? I can reduce being ill if I'm fit, because they are what we call lifestyle diseases.
Yes.
I can reduce because I go to the gym and I eat healthy. But I cannot avoid, is it? So I have to transfer. I don't know whether it's making sense.
Does that make sense? All right.
Make
So
sense?
it looks like that has landed with a lot of people.
Yeah, thank you.
All
And
right.
number 2, us, 35 and below, one of our biggest risk and one of our biggest impediments to all this conversation are 2 things. And number 1 is FOMO. FOMO, fear of missing out. Kuna party, I don't want to hear stories, I want to experience it. Lazima, sitaki mniambia story, nataka kukua hapo. FOMO,
Yeah.
Watu wameenda Diani, niko na mia hapa, nilikuwa na save for emergency fund, lakini nataka wanipatie story next week. I want to be in the center of the. And the worst is, with social media, you are always being constantly reminding what you are missing out. That is social media for you.
Yes.
It's always reminding you that, hey, ona venye watu wanaishi, ni wewe tu huishi. So you have to manage your FOMO vulnerability. Are we together? FOMO, you don't have to be there. Actually, some of the experiences are so underwhelming if you compare the expenditure.
It is true.
They are so underwhelming. But you already spent, and you realize whether they're underwhelming after spending. So you have to manage your FOMO. And number 2 is signaling. You want to signal you have money. Yeah? And who doesn't want to be admired or envied? Even myself, yeah? So if I have 8 million shillings, I can either buy a Prado TX or I can have 8 million shillings. I can't have both. So I have to decide, do I want to keep money or have TX? So you have to manage your signaling vulnerability. I know you want to be admired. I want you to be liked. Now, especially, I am from Mushago. Me and Kendi can resonate.
Munaonana?
Kuna kitu inaitwa kwa revenge spending. Unaona watu walifanya madharau huko?
Watajua wewe ni nani?
Watu walimfanya madharau?
Ehe.
Watu hata hako wanatuongelesha juu alikuwa sijui na Datsun. Wacha niwaonyeshe tumefika. That is because you're not sober. What Robert said is very important. We are emotional beings. And finances and money just exacerbate, or turbocharge our vulnerability.
That's
because we overreact, So it will tend to exaggerate our overreaction, So you have to be very contained and very sober and very rational and very decisive.
I think he's speaking to the people tumia pesa ikuzoe. Yeah? Please maintain yourself, Manage yourself. So even I think that's a good way to even close for the 35 and above.
Yeah, let me add still on them. So usually for Yoyo,
Hapa iko shida.
For YOLO, we have a very good comeback for you. Yeah, you are very smart. You came up with YOLO, but you have something known as Yoyo. So Yoyo is you are on your own. My friend, if you have an emergency now and you need 5 candy, call me. You can clearly see I'm in a panel.
Yeah.
I'm not ready to receive your call. And then you'll hear friends are a scam. It's not friends who are a scam. Please just manage your money well, okay?
All right. Okay, I think let's leave it on that high. And if we have any questions going forward, we can fill them to both Robert and Timothy, not unless there's a burning parting shot from the gentleman.
Burning parting shot, I would just say, honestly, about the information age, please manage your source of information very well.
Yeah.
Are we together? You've worked very hard for your money. You know the stress, waking up in the morning, rain and everything. So don't just log into social media, then you hear just anyone saying something, then you transfer the 400,000, the FOMO that he's talking about.
Yes.
Please manage it and know that for information, even for economy, the economists, I don't follow anyone who is always blaming the government, because I believe that as investors, we are looking for opportunities. And there are opportunities. Even today, I believe most of us here, we spend some money, right? If you came here with an Uber or a little, you've already spent money. So that's already an opportunity for someone else. So I decided that I'm going to look at only the economists who are saying, yes, things are this way, but probably I think you should buy the dollar or something like that. So choose your sources of information carefully, because you have a disadvantage of the information age, which is also an advantage. Then finally, for everyone, please live in your generation. So these opportunities that are here, the AI that we are talking about, artificial intelligence, when we are 50, you're also going to turn 30 or 50. You'll be telling your grandchildren and children and friends, you know, there used to be a company known as Meta. Everyone used to be there. It made so many people millionaires, and I wish I knew. So take advantage of such opportunities. Like personally, I invested in a company known as Advanced Micro Devices back in 2015, and even NVIDIA. And there's a time I even invested in Ethereum. So just look at those opportunities in your generation that are going to grow with your generation, and you become part of it, so that you are not just a commentator, but you are participating in the game as an owner. Thank you.
Very well said. Please let's appreciate Robert and Timothy. This was such an amazing session. Remember, you can follow up with them with any of the questions, and each of them, as they said, they are investment advisors and they can actually meet you at your point of need. So again, appreciate the gentlemen. And I love that fact that we are being told to live in the day and age we are in, and the digital era is here with us, fair and square. And that's why I'd like to have Candy and, of course, Roy to come on stage, even as we talk about the role of technology in financial literacy. Please let's appreciate those that are leaving